Oops.
Alright, so we just discussed the different types of poems you guys have, right? I want us to read this as a class, and then we will kind of discuss if it's a poem or not, okay? One volunteer. Who wants to read this? Okay, go ahead.
When I was born, I got a sweater for Christmas that was blue and itchy, and one of those sweaters that go on over your head. And I never liked the sweaters like that because before your head gets pinched through the head hole, you're in a dark place for a little too young, too long, so you start to think it'll never be light again. And this new sweater, which was my Aunt Molly's fault, was the worst one of all because it had an extra small head hole like it was made for a grapefruit sized head. So after my dad stuffed my arms through the sleeves and lifted the dark inside part of the sweater over my head and everything went black, he began to smash my head through the head hole, but I could tell by the feeling on the top of my head that it'll never make it, so I started to back out, but even my own mom tried to block my escape. And my sister Janice yelled about how she could help hold me, but they wouldn't let her. And then someone jerked the sweater back hard over my head until my head went through the head hole to just shove my eyes where it stuck. So I jumped and twisted and got away from everyone's grabbings and ran blind and screaming around the living room and tripped over my sister's new doll and fell down yelling and crying. And my sister was shouting about her dumb doll that tripped me, so my dad and my mom finally joined my side and attacked the sweater and freed me from it and told my Aunt Molly, who'd been waiting to see it on me, that I'd try it on later and make sure it would. And it sure would look cute, but I wouldn't even put a dangerous sweater like that in my present pile and stuck it over my Jared's doll. Should have just yanked it over his head and he had gotten used to it. And I heard her say that and didn't want her to babysit with me anymore. And during the next few years, there come to be special drawers in my dressers set aside for those sweaters I got for Christmas and birthday that were supposed to go on over my head but never did. And I wonder how they like being stuck in a dark place with no way out.
All right. Real quick, before we even talk about anything, on the bottom, tell me if you think if this is a poem, yes or no, and why. Like 2 or 3 sentences. If you think this is a poem, why or why not? No right or wrong answer on this. Just what your thoughts are. If you think it is a poem or not, and why. Finish up your last thought. Alright, what do we think? Yes or no? Is it a poem? Yes, yes, yes? Okay, why do we think it's a poem?
Goes into detail.
It goes into, has detail. What else?
It kind of was rhyming.
It was rhyming.
There was no period at all.
There's no period except for where?
Last one.
The last one. Why do you think the author, Keith, decided to only put one paragraph, a period in there? I mean, he didn't do it throughout the whole thing, right? But why put it at the end? That's the end of the poem, okay? Who do you think is writing this poem? What kind of perspective are we seeing it at? Okay, first person. How old is this person?
Kid.
A kid, right? But how old was he at the beginning of the poem?
4.
He's 4, right? So think about, do you know 4-year-olds in your life, right? Or have you ever met little kids? What's going on when they're like very excited or very mad? How do they talk?
Took a lot.
They talk a lot and real fast, right? If they're like first day of school or if there's something bad happened to them or they're mad, right? They're like, oh, guess what? Like my daughter, she's in kindergarten right now. She's like, Mama, guess what? Today we did this and this and this. And she just like goes on and on. As soon as I pick her up on the bus stop, she's like, well, we did this and this. And you know, like because of COVID and all that last year, she didn't get to go to pre-K. And she's just like super excited about school. So she talks real fast. Carol, you were reading this. How did you feel?
Like if I was the kid.
Like you were the kid, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, I don't ever warn people ahead of time, you know, like people are like, okay, why can't I stop? Because periods let us pause, right? And here it's like, holy cow, there's no period. So you felt like kind of out of breath a little bit, okay, and you just felt like that, okay? So, what part of it was all capitalized? And we talked about that too earlier. Reasons why people capitalize things. Why do you think this author capitalized that specific part?
Because they was being loud.
Okay? So this that part, they were being loud, right? Exactly. Because it says, my aunt said to my dad, whose other name was Laverne, Laverne, you should have just yanked it over his head and he got used to it, right? So now does he like his aunt that much anymore? No, right? Because she's like, making him wear all these homemade sweaters she has. Okay. What I want us to do next, I'm going to give you a sheet of paper. And I want you to color, draw an image of what you see when Kiara read this poem. Okay, I'm going to give you nice markers. Grab them, there's a bunch of them right here. Actually, I'm going to put them on this table so you can have room. So come grab some markers. We're going to spend a few minutes. I just want you to color. What kind of image do you see with this poem? Okay? How many people are there? What's the sweater look like? All that stuff. So I want you to show me what you see. Okay? I'll reread it while you guys are coloring, drawing. Okay? So kind of just like, what do you imagine? When I was 4, I got a sweater for Christmas that was blue and itchy. And one of those sweaters that go over your head, over your head, and I never liked sweaters like that because before your head gets punched through the head hole, you're in a dark place for a little too long. So you start to think it'll never be light again, and this new sweater, which was my Aunt Molly's fault, was the worst of all because it had an extra small head hole. Like it was made for a grapefruit sized head. So after my dad stuffed my arms through the sleeves and lifted the dark inside part of the sweater over my head and everything went black, he began to smash my head through the head hole, but I could tell by the feeling on the top of my head that I would never make it, so I started to back out, but even my own mom tried to block my escape. And my sister Janice yelled about how she could help hold me, but they wouldn't let her. And then someone jerked the sweater back over my head until my head went through the head hole to just above my eyes where it stuck. So I jumped and twisted and got away from everyone's grabbings and ran blind, screaming around the living room. and tripped over my sister's new doll and fell down yelling and crying, and my sister was shouting about her dumb doll that tripped me. So my dad and mom finally joined my side and attacked the sweater and freed me from it, and told my Aunt Molly, who'd been waiting to see it on me, that I would try it on later. It sure would look cute, but I wouldn't even put a dangerous sweater like that in my present pile, and stuck it over by Janice's doll, and my aunt said to my dad, whose other name was Laverne, "Laverne, you should have just yanked it over his head and he'd gotten used to it." I heard her say that and didn't want her to babysit with me anymore. And during the next few years, there came to be a special drawer in my dresser set aside for those sweaters I got for Christmas and birthdays. They were supposed to go over my head, but never did. And I wondered how they liked being stuck in a dark place with no way out. Okay, so now just draw what you imagine. What do you see? What does this look like? If it was like, if you could take a picture of the actual, what's going on while reading this poem, what would it look like? About 3 minutes or so to develop your pictures, add some colors in there, try your best. And then we're gonna read another poem and kind of compare the differences to the style. So tomorrow when you guys come in and you're writing your poem, you guys don't get as stuck as you guys did today. Like what I'm seeing, different drawing and coloring styles. You guys are drawing, I'm gonna take quick attendance. If you want to look at the poem again and add some more detail, feel free to do so. Alright, just take about a minute to finish and we'll share what you have, okay? Doesn't have to be perfect. I can still frame it if you want. Kira wants me to frame hers, huh?
Sure.
Thank you. Melissa's just finishing up, then we'll share. Okay, if you feel comfortable standing up, it'd be great to kind of work on your public speaking skills and stand up and present kind of just your picture and what you were thinking. If you don't feel like comfortable standing up, that's fine too. We're small enough to kind of just share with each other, okay? Who would like to go first? All right, Alex, what do you got? Everybody kind of take a look at Alex's presentation.
There's the dad putting the sweater on the son, the mom's putting on the sister blue doll, and the auntie doll.
Oh, so you kind of included everyone, different parts of the story, right?
Yeah.
And then the auntie is just like, just put it through.
Mm-hmm.
The dad looks a little angry. There's a blue sweater. You stick people, but it's very clear. They like you stick people too. And you included the Christmas tree. Very cool. Like it. Thank you. Next. Yeah, wonderful. Tell us what you got.
I got a Christmas tree with presents. And him running with the sweater.
With a sweater that's barely going over her head, right?
Yeah.
Very good. Next. More.
Mine is this. And this one, his dad was gonna do it.
Okay, so he's actually trying to shove that sweater over his head, right? I like that. Blue sweater. Kind of just like, trying to yank it down. I like how the sweater is kind of over the head, but we still see the face. Make it interesting. Very good. Wonderful. So what does this kind of activity or this poem kind of show us about poetry?
You could imagine, alright, create an image from
Yeah.
the words.
You can create an image, right? So if everybody kind of shared their poem, today, we could imagine what you are imagining what poetry is, right? But is it just because I'm imagining one thing, does that mean that the writer, the poet, is imagining the same thing? No, right? It can be something totally different. There's a lot of poems that are like, hey, this is about this animal, but no, I think it's totally about like war or something else, or love, right? So it kind of depends how you see things, okay? What else about this poem? What is it teaching us? Because you guys had a little rough time writing your poems earlier, right? So what does this type of poem teach us?
Write as a story.
You can write it as a story, right? You don't necessarily have to have punctuation. It doesn't have to skip a line, whatever it is. It can be, you can imagine writing a poem however old you are or wherever you're coming from, right? So if you go back in a memory, you can say, fall reminds me of when I was in 3rd grade, and kind of maybe write it in a 3rd grade point of view. Or you can write it as right now, okay? So, very good job. I just handed out some folders to you. Those will be your folders for the session. You can put your notebooks and your, documents in your folder, write your names on them, and it goes into the file cabinet with the magnets on it all the way in the back, left back side. Great job today. Tomorrow we'll discuss, another type of poem. The drawer with the magnets on the left-hand side, all the way in the back, where it says poetry. Yes, sir. Have all the markers, right? Thank you very much. Have a good day. You guys know where you guys going next hour? Yeah? Alice, you?
I got
Ecology. So it's gonna, you know what Ansel's room is. You're doing the writer's room, right? Okay. Wonderful.
You know where these other rooms are?
Yes, I can tell you. Self-portrait will be in the art room. So if you're facing the office, it's gonna be to your left-hand side. The room all the way to the end. The math is going to be down here in this corner. And then Earth's place is gonna be with, I think with Jeff, but in Ansel's room. And then Bodyworks with Michael right here.
Alright.
Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good morning, Kalina.
Good morning, Steve.
What do you got on your shoe?
Some tape. I don't know how I got there.
Don't know how to get with it?
Well, now I have to get her